Well, greetings everybody. This is now today exactly 1 week since we've left South Africa on our journey to Burundi to meet with church leaders and organizational leaders and community members around the response of the church to crisis. So this is a team, Hannes, Adam, and we've been together now for a week. Hannes is leaving us tomorrow, going back to South Africa, and then you will only see the two of us on the screen giving you some feedback. But yeah, today, 7 days ago, we left Pretoria, made our way through the Gaborone border, and headed to the church in Gaborone, where we were hosted by Pierre and his church leadership, and that was an encouraging time. What do you guys think about Gaborone?
Yeah, well, first time to Botswana, to Gaborone, I was not necessarily surprised by the conversations that we had, but I think they reaffirmed my anticipation that the people we were going to meet had such tremendous experiences and competencies, and also just a genuine heart to explore and ask questions and to learn more from one another. So that was very reaffirming. It was a wonderful first visit. We'll get into some of the key takeaways that we had. Those are all in the report as well. But I think we were quite blessed and encouraged by that initial meeting as a starting point to ask deeper and better questions as we move forward.
Honest, I remember in our discussions after Gaborone, you shared with us a few things that almost like spikes, things that stood out. Do you want to talk about one or two of those things?
I think the one thing, and I think I just pick it up because of that I know a bit more about Botswana than the other countries we're going to visit, is the fact of women in leadership and the struggle that women have in the church in Botswana to become leaders. And I think that was the one important spike. The other one is let's call it the ecumenical relationships in Botswana. There always seems to be internal, maybe even more internal struggles within churches than other words. But that are the two things that
Two key things. Interesting when you mention women in leadership. When we came here into Livingstone, that's where we are now, and we already had our meetings with the leaders here in Livingstone, is that although it was women in leadership wasn't a natural thing that they brought to the table, but when we asked them the question, we also had different opinions. We had one lady responding saying, no, in her church the freedom is there, the platform is given for women and they are treated on an equal basis. But then we also had some other examples from the churches.
Yeah, I think there was the other extreme, that they are not allowed to speak. They must ask their husbands at home, like the Bible, like in the biblical times. But the other important spike here in Livingstone was the whole thing of the children killings and the witchcraft going with it. And it was also just mentioned. It was not a discussion. We didn't have a discussion on it, but it would be interesting to see how it evolves.
It might require some further studies to just understand. I think it had to do obviously with the witchcraft and human trafficking, and something that has been identified as a real crisis in the Livingstone context.
But I think we must be clear. I think we mentioned the human trafficking. I think for them in Livingstone it's more about the rituals and the killings for the organs to make muti for them.
Medicine,
but I think
stuff,
if we go further north, we would find human trafficking and things.
Yes.
It's also just been interesting to think about the demographic and the type of profiles, perhaps we could say, of the people that have been with us, and we're still learning about that. In Livingstone, it seemed like it was a bit more homogenous. We had a little bit of a racial disparity. We didn't have that in Livingstone. We had more women in Livingstone than we did in Gaborone. In Livingstone, we had a much wider range of elders and youth, a higher percentage of pastors that were there. So we've been just in conversation about how do we try to promote all of the voices, but provide space so that there's confidence and comfort in sharing opinions and perspectives, wherein we might not see all of the internal dynamics of who knows who and who's at what church and what some of those hierarchies of power might be. So that's been interesting. And maybe another takeaway that we've been contemplating is in our first visit in Gaborone, there was a conversation that surfaced amongst the participants that was organic, and they questioned, hey, should we get together again? And what would that look like? Should we have a follow-up, a meeting in a month or so? And there was an invitation from one of the participants to share and extend that invitation to everyone else. That didn't happen in Livingstone, and that's completely fine too. What these two experiences are, I think, sparking in our conversation is a question about what is the impact or the takeaway of these gatherings. We didn't intend for there to be an organic community development of sorts in Livingstone. It just sort of happened, and who knows if they'll follow up on that. So we've been just thinking about, what's our expectation and our impact. I think we're kind of at the collective agreement now that we don't have any expectation or desire for there to be further dialogue and discussion. Of course, that would be fascinating, and we'd love for it to happen, but perhaps, as I rephrase, that's not something that we're trying to force or to coerce in these meetings. And so if it happens, it happens. And we've had a mix so far of, as we talk about next steps for the church, in Gaborone, they were already talking about next steps for this community that was established in the meeting. And in Livingstone, well, who knows? Maybe that'll happen, and we just need to give that time and space.
I think another important thing just to mention is that a large part of the group in Gaborone was expats.
Yeah.
They weren't local people, and it might also be an indication of the travelings in
The
Africa,
migration
the migrations
taking place,
taking place in Africa.
Well, I think in general we had good discussions. We obviously approach the discussion through storytelling and allow people to share their stories. We make use of biblical examples, biblical stories, and ask participants to which biblical story do they relate to when they are experiencing a crisis, and through that we get a better understanding on the meaning and the definition of resilience as well as crisis in the local context. So in our reports, where we will have the links below, you will be able to get access to all these reports and actually delve a little bit deeper into what has been discussed, what are some of the feedback and takeaways that we have from these discussions. But over and above the meetings, we're also having some fun. Getting to see places like Elephant Sands, close encounters with the elephants. We've been to Kasane at the Tebe Safari Lodge, where we eventually went on a sunset boat cruise. And now, here we're in Livingstone, and we're gonna explore Livingstone in the next few days as well, and go to the big falls. And so, what are some of those highlights for you?
I think definitely the elephants at Elephant Sands, and that some of us discovers also donkeys at Elephant Sands and things like that. But it's a good experience.
Okay, that's an internal joke that we're not allowed to share on the public forum. We actually said to one another before starting this recording, we will not talk about the donkeys, but if you have any queries about that, I will put Hannes' cell phone number below here, and you can talk to Hannes about it. And but Adam, you just carry on telling us some of your highlights and experiences in general nature.
You mentioned the words close encounters, and I think that's a great label of what we've had. Some rich close encounters with leaders here in these towns, and then also close encounters with the rivers and the animals, the elephants and the zebras that are walking by. So it's been nice to to have that duality of close encounters.
Good. We said we want to keep it short. It's already 10 minutes. But yeah, I think in general the team spirit is up. It's good. We are doing well. I think it's okay, as you can see. We have different perspectives on it. But yeah, I think the team is doing good. From here we will depart on Sunday towards the Gwembe Valley and spend 2-3 days there, and then we make our way to Lusaka, and then eventually from Lusaka we start heading towards Malawi. So in about a week's time we will be able to give you another update. But in the meantime, as I said, below are the links and to this report, and we will, as we complete the gatherings and the discussions with the leaders, we will generate reports and publish it there for you to read and also to comment on. So yeah, I think from our side, thank you so much for all your support and prayers and helping us to stay focused.
Thank you.
Thank you.